Hello, my fellow bookworms, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about a book that I've been so excited for. I think it's been my #1 highest anticipated release of 2025, probably of all time, if I'm being completely honest, and that is Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. I think it's safe to say that the autumn has officially arrived here in Switzerland. It is chilly, and the equinox is just around the corner, and it's been raining almost every day, and I love it. I think that normally makes me a bit of a weirdo, but here in the reading spaces, I feel bookish people all just adore the autumn. We all want an excuse to stay inside and read a good book, and that's exactly the plan for today. So I'm going to be reading Katabasis on my Kobo and updating you periodically. Unfortunately, I don't have a physical copy to show you the cover, but on the new Kobo, not sponsored obviously, you can still see it quite well. So I'm really excited, especially for the maps now that I've upgraded, because on my super old Kindle, it was impossible to make out any of the words on the map. Even if you blew it up, it was super blurry. So it should be the perfect conditions for reading. Speaking of the cover, it's really cool, by the way. I see that you have this university building, but they're kind of going down into some sort of labyrinth. I feel like at this point, I need to preface a little bit because it seems like R.F. Kuang's work in general is a little bit divisive, and a lot of people have a lot to say about that. I've heard a lot of very unfair critiques about her, but also a couple of people very close to me whose taste in books aligns very closely didn't love the Poppy War in the way that I loved it, or might not have liked Babel. So I think there's something that she does in her writing that doesn't appeal to everyone, but for me so far at least, it's really worked. So I've read all of her books so far. She doesn't have so many. She has the Poppy War trilogy, which is one of my all-time favorites, and she has Babel, also one of my all-time favorites. And then she has Yellowface, which really didn't hit for me, but it could also be that genre in general I don't love, and I didn't so much like the humor in it. But when I saw that she is writing another dark academia that's been compared to Piranesi, also a book that I absolutely adore, and Dante's Inferno, and that it will be a descent into hell, sounded like someone just read my mind and wrote the book. I did see that a lot of people who got the advanced reader copy, the ARC, didn't seem to like it, but then again, the whole point of putting the book out there as an advanced reader copy is so that you can get some final feedback and make some tweaks in case things were not coming across in the way that you wanted them to, or people were bored at a certain point. So hopefully, those critiques were either things that I wouldn't feel, or hopefully she cleaned them up a little bit. That being said, based on some of the feedback, I will maybe try to dampen a little bit my expectations because I want to enjoy this book as much as possible. And since she's a favorite writer, I'm kind of expecting it to be an all time favorite like her other work has been for me. So I will try to calm down as much as I can and just relax and enjoy the book. It is a super deliciously rainy day today, the perfect conditions for reading this. I will put on some soft classical music and hopefully Profe will come hang out on my lap, grab a cup of tea, and set the ambiance for reading a nice dark academia. I'm not so sure how much I'll be making updates, but I will try to get back to you at least by the halfway mark. So I'm gonna go set that up, start reading, and I will see you all back very soon once I have some thoughts to share. Bye. Hi there. I'm checking in a lot earlier than I was planning to. I'm still in the beginning, the first several chapters, and I already have some complicated thoughts, unfortunately. Also, sorry if the camera is a little bit shaky. I'm I don't know. I don't know how to position myself right now. Yeah, so far it's not exactly what I thought it would be. I mean, it's still early on, so hopefully things change. But I have a few issues. Number one is the tone. So it's written in a very kind of lighthearted way, as if the characters aren't taking their situation seriously. Within the first few pages, they descend into hell after the PhD advisor dies in an accident. This is literally page one, so not a spoiler. um, and I don't know, I mean, I understand that maybe they're in a position where they're often making these kind of sacrifices, maybe not something this big, so they're habituated to it. But it's written in kind of a tone like it's trying to be funny all the time, essentially, and it's very similar humor to in Yellowface, just kind of a bit facetious. And for me, the humor in Yellowface really didn't work, and it's not working right now either. And also, even though, of course, the classic characteristics of a dark academia is criticizing academia, which it's kind of doing that, or definitely doing that. I think the it's still missing an ingredient. It's like I don't feel the obsession of the characters themselves. I don't know how to. I really don't know quite how to explain myself with this. It's like they're they don't seem to care. Like they have all of this knowledge, but they were told essentially that she wants to go into hell because she wants the letter of recommendation from her supervisor. She wants him to continue being her supervisor because he's the best of the best, biggest name in the field, and also the chair of her PhD, which he I mean, actually couldn't be because that would be that's a big no. That's considered bias. So your PhD supervisor can't also be your chair. You have to have someone external. That's something minor, and normally I would forgive if the author wasn't in academia, but there's little things like this that don't quite add up. Um, hmm. And then yeah, it's like they're obsessed enough to go into hell and give up half of their life to go get the supervisor back. But I don't feel that obsession from them. It feels like they're kind of just moving through the motions. And also the dialogue so far is the most tilted thing I've ever read. It's really strange because I don't remember it being like that in the other books, but it's really like Peter will say, "We should we should go there," and Alice will say, "I don't think so." And Peter will say, "Why?" And then Alice will say, "I don't think it's a good idea." Like kind of like this level of meaningless dialogue, and it's really pages of it. So not super loving that. Um, yeah, and then it also the narrator will talk directly to us to explain certain concepts, which some of them are. It's like she'll name drop a lot of literature works, kind of out of context. Like it feels like more so just to name drop them. And then, like the concepts that are more important, the narrator will talk to us and over explain rather than weaving it more into the story. So it feels a little clunky to start with, but hopefully it gets better. Right now, unfortunately, not super loving it. I will check in later. Hey, kitty. Do you have something to say to the people? Good point. How's your brother? Cusco. Hey, baby. One thing that I loved from the story so far is that cats can sometimes find openings into hell, and yeah, I mean anything with cats talking or being a central part in a story, being able to find these entrances into hell and just going back into the normal world as if it was nothing. It's always appreciated. I love a good cat in a story. Right, Profi? It's believable. You probably visit sometimes when I'm at work, don't you? Mm-hmm. Overruler. Okay, just to give a little bit of an example of what I meant with the narrator talking a lot to us and over explaining some things, but also kind of name dropping unnecessarily. Here was where the magic system was explained in the beginning, which normally a magic system is explained kind of more integrated into the story through the actions or the dialogue of the characters. And here instead, it's you get a lot of chapters like this where the narrator is talking directly to us. It's like as if you're reading a textbook. Um, and it goes on for a really long time, directly explaining the magic system to us. Many pages. And during this whole time, the story isn't occurring. And it's very strange because in passages like this, it will name drop in a way that sort of makes me feel like the author kind of wants you to know that she's read these things, because it'll be out of context. It won't be talking about specific ideas of Nietzsche or whoever else, philosophers and scientists throughout history. They're really just kind of put there just to show that she's done her homework in a way, or at least it kind of came off a bit that way to me. And then certain concepts which are not so complex, for example, like here, this kind of idea that certain concepts can't be broken down by their parts. For example, a heap, you can't define when a pile of things, when how many grains of sand becomes a heap and how many you take it away until it isn't anymore. I feel like just saying that on its own, you kind of get the point. But here it explains it on and on. I kind of found myself like, I understand what you're saying, Rebecca. I understand. And then like this this bit of like, come on, you know very well what a heap is. It's like porn. When you see it, And I don't know. And then later on in the story, um, ah, ah, complicated feelings. But yeah, just to give a bit of an example. Hi there. So I thought we could walk and talk a bit. I'm about halfway through the book. I was going to update at the dog park, but there were other people there, and I don't have that kind of guts to be seen filming myself yet. So sorry for any noise. I don't have my camera. And Cusco is super muddy, by the way, because it's raining very lightly right now. There's a sun shower, which means a witch is getting married. But it was pouring earlier, and I wasn't expecting him to play around so much because lately there haven't been so many dogs at the park, and generally he's pretty calm, but his best friend was there, and since he hasn't properly played in a while, he went crazy, so I have to deal with that. But it's worth it, right, Cusco? You had a nice time? Okay. So I'm not so sure how much sense I was making earlier. I was rambling a lot, and also the text that I was showing wasn't necessarily the one that I was having a bigger issue with the narrator talking directly to you. But things have gotten better. Either they've gotten a lot better, or I'm just getting more used to the writing style. Again, a big issue with this could have been that I was going in with super high expectations. And yeah, the tone and the vibes weren't quite there yet. But now, I mean, it's definitely not going to be a favorite, I think, unless the second half is crazy. But at least I'm invested, and I want to know what happens. And the characters felt very flat at first, but now now they feel more developed and I understand their background. I would have liked that more in the beginning though, to be fair, so that I was invested earlier, but so far so good. I finished it. I want to start off by saying I couldn't help myself and I already started to watch some of the reviews for Katabasis. At least I watched two. One was just the advanced reader copy, and one was an actual reading vlog and review from Emily Fox. And based off of that, I kind of feel like nobody can really say whether or not you will like it or you won't, because for me, with Emily Fox, at least, there's never been a case where she really likes a book and I've disagreed and disliked it. The opposite has happened where I like something and she doesn't super like it, but it feels really unpredictable to me. I mean, I've not seen a ton of reviews, but it seems a little bit unpredictable whether you will like it or not. So before I get into my thoughts, I would just say that if you liked Kuang's other work, or you really like the premises of a descent into hell, or any kind of dark academia, maybe give it a shot. And I think you will know within the first few chapters if it's for you or if it's not for you. Disclaimers aside, I finished it. It's actually been a while since I finished it. I've even gone on a little holiday. I went to Andalusia in Spain, where I thought that I had skipped out on the summer season, but it was like over 30 degrees the whole time. So extremely, extremely hot. And I'm very happy to be back in rainy and chilly Lausanne. We saw flamenco and had a lot of sangria that went straight to our heads because it was so hot outside, and had a lot of tapas. And I finished the book while I was there. And since then, I've been kind of trying to process it a little bit and understand why exactly it didn't work for me. Whereas the rest of her work is like are all time favorites. And in general, I feel like I'm very forgiving of dark academia. I don't think I've read a single one that I didn't quite like. And to be fair, a big part of that, as I've mentioned before, could just be because I had such high expectations. I felt like this was going to be really a huge favorite. I love anything dark. I love Kuang. And I tried to dampen a bit my expectations going in, but I mean, how could they not be high? I do find it pretty interesting because, as I said, I watched just a couple of reviews before, one who really liked it and one who didn't like it at all. Carrie can read. And I found it was interesting because what I've seen so far, and also in the comments, is that some people, even people who didn't like it so much, liked it versus didn't like it at certain parts. So for me, the beginning was really the worst, like the strange tone, the attempted humor, which didn't really hit with me, and the really blocky dialogue. For some people, the beginning was their favorite, and then they thought it got worse, and yeah, different opinions there. So I guess it's a complicated book to discuss in general. Once I got to the middle part again, and I had like more detail of who exactly the characters are, their backstory, and the struggles that they've gone with, I became more invested in them. And the very ending I liked quite a lot. And another thing that I liked quite a lot too is somewhere in the middle, we meet another character called Elspeth, who is another former student of their supervisor. And she was really interesting. She was kind of like a hell pirate, and anything with pirates, I am on board. I love pirates too much. So that was really fun, and so was anything to do with the cat. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background. He's being a little bit restless right now. He understands that it's weekend time and we should be hanging out together. So you also meet a couple of antagonists in the story later on, and their background is really interesting as well. So that just to say that it did get better. I think if I cut out the beginning part, it would have felt like a bit of a meh book for me, like just a normal 3 stars. And if I hadn't known who wrote it before, I wouldn't have thought so much about it afterwards. But it's hard not to wonder why it didn't work for me when, again, I loved her other books so much. And especially considering that she had already written a dark academia, Babel, and it worked so, so well for me. And in theory, I was expecting it to be just like Babel, but set in hell, which, yes, thank you. Yes, very much. I would like that. So after having some time away and processing a bit, I think I figured out at least some of the reasons why it didn't really work for me. And maybe if you think that you could relate to these, then you can get an idea of whether or not it would work for you. Or if you've already read it, let me know what you think. So I think the first and maybe most important aspect that I usually love from any dark academia, which was very much absent from this book, was the academic obsession that characterizes the genre. So the main character is Alice and Peter. I didn't really feel this very typical dark academia obsession with their topic. It felt like very much, I mean, they were pushing themselves way too hard. They were working super long hours and doing very crazy things, but in their dialogue, they weren't really having this typical pretentious dialogue or internal obsession with it. It's kind of like, I mean, I kind of feel like usually in a dark academia, you follow them from the beginning and you experience this like descent into madness of the characters where they arrive new at an institute and they kind of get indoctrined into this very obsessive way of study or like maybe a secret society. And at first, it just seems like academic rigor or like, just very deep seated interest. But soon characters start making um, very questionable and morally gray or straight up very, very dark, as the story goes on, decisions based on their obsession. Like they are blacked out to the rest of the world. And to an extent, it's there, but rather than following the characters from the beginning like that and experiencing this descent into madness, you're kind of following the characters later on. So, kind of where they've already become really upset, they're already indoctrined and they're kind of just numb to it all. And they're just really, really burnt out. So, that obsession and like initial spark and interest isn't really there. They're kind of just taking everything for granted. Um, and in some ways it feels more realistic, like it touches on topics of definitely of burnout, definitely of being in a situation with like your supervisor where you have not enough boundaries and those boundaries are being crossed. And it also definitely touches a lot upon depression, but this kind of like hyperbolic obsession, like in If We Were Villains, where they're talking in Shakespeare all the time. And you can see this deep-seated obsession through their dialogue and kind of through every action of theirs. It's not really there. It's kind of in some ways a bit closer to real academia. Still not. It's still very, very dramatic version of that, at least from personal experiences. But the core message there about burnout and about also about experiencing sexual harassment and depression and being just super, super overworked, uh, it's a lot more realistic, I would say, than something like, I mean, definitely something like Bunny. And there's definitely nothing innately wrong with that. If anything, I mean, maybe some people are really sick of these very classic tropes in dark academia. The setting is also not there, is the other thing. So, another thing in, Secret History, If We Are Villains, it's such a lush academic environment. And in some ways, it's a critique also. It's a lot about like putting on the face of academia rather than the actual slow work. In a way, at least that's what I think. Donna Tartt is kind of the founder in some ways of dark academia, and that was the intention with Secret History. So that's not there this time. And I really missed it, honestly. Like for me personally, the reason that I read dark academia is for those like really cozy fall settings. I want to think of like brick towers and dusty libraries and, the outfits and everything like this. For me, like reading about the aesthetic and then also in hand with that crazy descent into madness where the book, starts here and goes, their psyche just goes crazy. Um, those are my favorite things in Dark Academia, and they were absent from this book. And the other thing, because this descent into madness also didn't quite happen in Babel in the same way that it does in a lot of other Dark Academias, and I still loved it a lot, is the research aspects of Kuang. Being a PhD student, obviously really likes the research aspect of writing, and she included so much of that in Babel, and the same is here in Katabasis as well. And in Babel, I know that it bothered a lot of people because it's true, you weren't super given the space to draw your own conclusions. She very much wanted to make sure that you fully understood what she was saying, and she also wanted to fully provide any linguistic background so that you understood the full context that she wanted to explain in it. I know a lot of people didn't like this. I personally really loved it. I also find like phonology of languages really, really interesting. So that was cool. And she is also working, I think, in Chinese studies. So it's her area and it fit perfectly because it was a part of the magic system. Beautiful. And also, I think even though she explained a lot, kind of the meanings that she wanted you to extract from the story, I forgave it because the meanings were really interesting, that it was all kind of a critique of colonialism, but also dark academia and also fantasy was just very, very cool for me. But in Katabasis, there's also a lot of research that's inserted in there, but it doesn't add to the story. And I think I mentioned also in this chaotic halfway point where I was catching up, or no, maybe that was the beginning. I would have really liked this research to be, number one, relevant always when she shares it to the story, be adding to the magic system. Number two, more so spoken through the characters, because this typical pretentious voice and the teaching that's happening, it's like the narrator speaking to you. It really felt like it was kind of coming more from the author rather than from the characters and adding to the story. So that, in my opinion, didn't go super well. By the way, in case you're putting off this book because you're being intimidated, because some people are saying it's over explaining, and some people are saying it's like you have to read other books before going into it. Again, as I said, I was some references that I didn't know, which were quite a lot. I was looking them up, and it didn't add so much to the story. So you can kind of just skim over them if you're not super interested yourself. In fact, I was a little bit confused at first because the character's Peter, actually, he is supposed to be more so in the maths aspect of magic. And I was really confused because it was talking about, all of these mathematicians. And what it was really was more so logic and philosophy. So sort of this argument A and therefore argument B equals argument C, if that makes any sense. It was not, there were no numbers. It was just kind of all logical puzzles. A lot of people are, like I've mentioned before, name dropped for coming up with these different kind of logical puzzles. It's not so relevant. I would have liked a lot, because the magic system, it's very, very loose, and I find it interesting, kind of the premise behind it, but I would have liked to be a bit more inside of Alice's and Peter's head as they worked through things, because they were thinking of certain logical puzzles that they could use in certain situations to kind of trick the world and trick reality to suspend its disbelief. And then you have this temporary magical circle doing whatever task that you need. I would have liked if if they could maybe rather figure out their own logic, and I don't know, so you got a bit more payoff
with it rather than them thinking of this name or using this specific logical puzzle to apply to theirs that we weren't aware of beforehand. It would have been fun to be somehow be in their heads so that we were working through things with them. But yeah, maybe minor point. Honestly, I think I'm just over analyzing it because I'm really disappointed that I didn't love it so much. I was really, really expecting to. I was calling her always like my all-time favorite author, and maybe her other books. I'm hoping that whatever she comes out with in the future, I will like a lot as well. This one, yeah, it was a dud for me. I mean, it wasn't by any means a horrible book. And again, I think if you've liked her other works or you're open to the genre, just maybe even get, if you have like Kindle, or maybe you can use your phone for this, you can just look at the preview and read the tone and see if it's something that you would like. And I hope for your case that it is. Yeah, big bummer for me, this one. And I would love to hear your thoughts more in the comments. Is this on your TBR? Have you read it? Have you seen that it's like, I haven't watched so much so far, but it seems like very extreme opinions on either end of the table. So very interested to hear more opinions. I'm sorry if you loved it. Please don't come after me. I love R.F. Kuang as a whole, and I'm bummed a lot more than you are that I didn't like it. I really wanted to love it. But well, I at least have since then started reading The Tainted Cup, which has been on my TBR also for a really long time, and I'm buddy reading it with Pablo. And so far, it's so good. There's also, interestingly, both the protagonist in both stories have this thing where they can't forget anything. And in both cases, it is, kind of driving them a little bit crazy. So very interesting that that theme continued with this book. And I'm really happy that I love it so far. Let me know what you are reading this autumn. I've thought about making an autumn TBR, but I'm really not sure exactly what I want to read. I'm thinking about reading some Shirley Jackson books, for example, like We Have Always Lived in a Castle, as well as The Haunting of Hill House, because I just rewatched The Haunting of Hill House and also Midnight Mass, in case you're interested in any spooky series. Those are both miniseries that are on Netflix. Also good. Yeah, I'm rambling because it's the best time of the year for stories, but yes, please let me know what you're reading. Let me know what you're watching as well, your opinions, and looking forward to seeing you next time in future videos. I wish you some great and cozy autumn reads. Until then, bye.